My father disappeared when I was 12. Years later, he left me one thing: a key to a bunker no one was supposed to know existed. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're subscribed, because this story only gets darker from here. And where are you watching? Tell me in the comments, would you open the door or walk away? I hadn't cried in months, not even at my mother's funeral. But the moment the lawyer slid that small, cold key across the table, something inside me cracked. Because it wasn't the key that scared me. It was the way he said, "Your father made sure no one else would ever find this." And that's when I realized my father had been hiding something from me my entire life. If you've ever felt like the truth was just out of reach, like something important was kept from you, then you'll understand why I couldn't walk away from that room. I should have walked away. I really should have, but I didn't. And that decision changed everything. My name is Ronnie. 3 weeks before that moment, my life was already falling apart. I was behind on rent, not by a few days, by 3 months. My landlord had stopped knocking and started leaving printed eviction notices taped to my door like threats dressed as paperwork. I worked nights at a gas station on the edge of the city, the kind of place where the lights flicker and the coffee always tastes burnt no matter how fresh it is. Most nights, I didn't speak to anyone except truck drivers passing through or people too tired to make eye contact. Loneliness has a sound. It's quiet, too quiet, and it had been following me for years. My father and we weren't close. Actually, that's not true. We weren't anything. He left when I was 12. No explanation. No goodbye, just gone. For years, I told myself I didn't care. That I didn't need him. That whatever reason he had, it didn't matter. But the truth is, it did. It always did. And when I got the call that he was dead, I didn't know how to feel. Relieved? Angry? Empty? I chose empty. It was easier. They told me there was no funeral. No service. No family gathering. Just a name on a document. And apparently, something left behind for me. That's how I ended up sitting across from a man in a perfectly pressed suit. In an office that smelled like polished wood and quiet secrets. He didn't waste time. "Mr. Ronnie Carter," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Your father left very little behind. No property, no bank accounts of significant value." I nodded. That sounded about right. But he paused. And that pause felt heavier than everything else. "There is one item, specifically designated for you." That's when he reached into his drawer and placed the key on the table. It was small, old, not like a house key or a car key. It looked industrial, like something that belonged to a place that wasn't meant to be found. "There's also an address," he added, sliding a folded piece of paper toward me. I didn't touch it. "Where does it lead?" I asked. He hesitated, and I noticed something, subtle but real. For the first time since I walked in, he looked uncomfortable. "I don't know," he said. "But your father was very specific about one thing." I leaned forward slightly. "What thing?" His eyes met mine. "You were only to receive this? If no one else claimed it first." That didn't make sense. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said slowly, "someone else was looking for it." A cold feeling crept into my chest. "Who?" He shook his head. He never said, but he insisted that if anyone asked about it, we were to deny everything. Silence filled the room, heavy, unsettling. I finally picked up the key.
It felt wrong.
Like it didn't belong in my hand, like it had been waiting for too long. "What's at the address?" I asked again. This time he didn't answer. Instead, he said something that made my stomach drop. "Mr. Carter, your father paid for this service in advance. For 20 years. 20 years. That meant he planned this long before he left, long before I became nothing to him." I swallowed hard. "Why me?" I whispered more to myself than to him, but he heard it, and his answer stayed with me. "Because," he said, "you were the only one he trusted." That didn't feel like trust. It felt like a burden. I left the office with the key in my pocket and the address in my hand. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I sat in my car for nearly an hour, just staring at that piece of paper. It was a location far outside the city. Remote. No street name. Just coordinates. That made it worse. This wasn't a house. This wasn't a storage unit. This was something hidden. Something buried. I told myself I wasn't going to go. I had enough problems already. Rent, work, life. I didn't need mystery. I didn't need whatever my father left behind. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. Because it doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about fear. It just keeps asking one question. What if? What if this was something valuable? What if this was the reason he left? What if this was the truth he never told me? That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw that key, felt its weight, heard the lawyer's words. You were the only one he trusted. By morning, I had already made my decision. I called in sick to work, grabbed a backpack, filled it with whatever I had left. A flashlight, some water, a phone charger. And just before I walked out the door, I looked around my apartment. Peeling paint, half-empty fridge, stack of unpaid bills. This wasn't a life, this was survival. And maybe, just maybe, that key was a way out, or a mistake I'd regret forever. I locked the door behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't recognize. Hope, mixed with fear. I got into my car, started the engine, and typed the coordinates into my phone. The route appeared. 3 hours away, middle of nowhere. No signal for the last 40 minutes, of course. I let out a dry laugh. Of course it is, I muttered. Then I drove. The city faded behind me faster than I expected. Buildings turned into empty roads, traffic into silence. The further I went, the more it felt like I was leaving something behind. Not just the city, my life, my past, myself. About 2 hours in, something strange happened. I noticed a black SUV behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Same direction, same road. Normal. But then I turned off the main highway, and it turned too. I slowed down slightly. So did it. A knot formed in my stomach. Coincidence, right? I took another turn. A smaller road, more isolated, and again, it followed. Now my heart was racing. I checked my rearview mirror. Tinted windows. No visible driver. Just there. Watching. Waiting. I pressed the gas. Not fast enough to be obvious, just enough to create distance. But no matter what I did, it stayed. Same distance, same silence. That's when it hit me, the lawyer's words. Someone else was looking for it. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Okay, I whispered to myself. Okay, think. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what they wanted. But I knew one thing. They weren't following me for no reason. And whatever was at the end of this road, it mattered. A lot more than I thought. The signal dropped exactly when the map said it would. No bars, no connection, just a blinking dot on a frozen screen. Perfect. I looked back again. The SUV was still there, unmoving, patient. And suddenly, this didn't feel like curiosity anymore. This felt like a mistake, a big one. But I had come too far to turn back. I took a deep breath and kept driving, because whatever my father left behind, it wasn't just a secret. It was something people were willing to follow me for, maybe even something they were willing to fight for, and I had a feeling I was about to find out why. The road didn't end, it just disappeared. 1 second there was cracked asphalt under my tires. The next, it turned into loose dirt and scattered stones that crunched like broken glass beneath the weight of my car. I slowed down, not because I wanted to, but because something deep inside me was screaming that I was getting close. Too close. I checked the rearview mirror again. The black SUV was still there. Same distance. Same silence. Like it didn't need to rush. Like it knew something I didn't. Okay, I whispered, my voice barely steady. Whatever this is, we finish it. I kept driving. The path narrowed. Branches scraped against the sides of my car, leaving long, ugly streaks across the paint. The sun was still up, but out here, it felt darker. Like the trees were swallowing the light before it could reach the ground. And then I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a rock formation, a large uneven mound rising from the earth. But as I got closer, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't natural. It was too perfect. Half buried in dirt and overgrown with weeds was a massive steel door. Rust covered most of its surface, but not enough to hide the thick hinges. The reinforced frame, and right in the center, a lock. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. This is it, I said under my breath. I parked about 20 feet away. The engine clicked as it cooled, each sound echoing in the silence like a countdown. For a moment, I didn't move, because now that I was here, I wasn't sure I wanted to know what was on the other side. Then I looked at the key in my hand. Cold, heavy, waiting. And I remembered something the lawyer said. You were the only one he trusted. I opened the car door. The air hit me first. Dry. Still. Too still. Like this place hadn't been disturbed in years. I stepped out slowly, my boots crunching against gravel and dead leaves. Every sound felt too loud. Too exposed. I glanced back. The SUV had stopped further down the path. It didn't come closer. Didn't honk. Didn't move. It just waited. Watching. That made it worse. I swallowed hard and turned away. Step by step. I approached the door. Up close, it looked even bigger. At least 10 feet tall. Solid steel. No markings. No signs. Nothing to tell me what this place was or why it existed. Just a lock. And me. My heart was pounding now. Not fast. Heavy. Each beat like a warning. Don't do this. You don't belong here. But I ignored it. I reached out. My hand hovered over the lock for a second. Then I pushed the key in. It slid in smoothly. Too smoothly. Like it had been used recently. That thought hit me hard. Recently? No, that wasn't possible. Right? I shook my head. Just open it, I muttered. I turned the key. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, clunk. A deep mechanical sound echoed from inside the door. Not just a lock. Multiple locks. Heavy ones, unlocking. One. After another. Clunk, clunk, clunk. I froze. That sound, it wasn't old. It wasn't rusted or broken. It was clean, precise, alive. This place wasn't abandoned. My chest tightened. Okay. I whispered, stepping back slightly. The door didn't open on its own. Of course it didn't. I had to pull it. I reached for the handle. Cold steel under my fingers. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I pulled. At first it didn't move. Then slowly, with a low, grinding sound, the door began to open. Dust fell from the edges. Rust flaked off in tiny pieces. But beneath it, the metal was solid, strong, as if time had barely touched it. The gap widened. Darkness stared back at me. Thick, deep, uninviting. A smell drifted out. Not rot, not decay, something else. Clean, but stale, like air that had been sealed away for too long. I stepped back instinctively, my heart racing now. This wasn't right. None of this was right. And yet, I couldn't stop. I grabbed my flashlight from my backpack, turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a staircase. Concrete, leading down, far down. I couldn't see the bottom, just step after step, disappearing into black. Of course it goes underground. I muttered. I glanced back again. The SUV, still there, still watching. And suddenly, I realized something. They weren't trying to stop me. They wanted me to go inside. That realization hit harder than anything else. Why? What was down there that they needed me to open? Because that's what I had done. I had unlocked it. For them, a chill ran down my spine. No, I whispered. No, I'm not doing this for you. But even as I said it, I knew I was lying. I turned back to the staircase, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately. Cool air wrapped around me, sending a shiver through my body. The door behind me creaked slightly as it settled. Still open. Good. I wasn't ready to be trapped down here. Not yet. Each step echoed as I descended. Slow. Careful. The beam of my flashlight moved with me, revealing nothing but gray walls and more steps. It felt endless, like I was walking into the earth itself. 10 steps. 20. 50. 100. Still going. My legs started to burn slightly, but I didn't stop, because turning back now felt worse than going forward. Then finally, the stairs ended. I stepped onto a flat surface. Concrete floor. Wide space. My flashlight swept across the darkness, and what it revealed made me stop breathing for a second. It wasn't just a bunker. It was massive. A huge underground chamber stretched out before me. Rows of metal shelves, crates, equipment, all covered in a thin layer of dust, but not thick enough to mean decades. This place had been used. Maybe not recently, but not forgotten either. What is this? I whispered. My voice echoed, softly, like the room was absorbing it. I stepped forward slowly. My light passed over labels, boxes, old monitors, filing cabinets. It looked like some kind of storage facility or a command center. I wasn't sure, but one thing was clear. This wasn't cheap. This wasn't something my father could have built alone, and definitely not something worth just $1, which meant that price wasn't real. It was a cover, a secret. My heartbeat quickened again. I moved deeper inside, drawn by something I couldn't explain. Then, I saw it, a desk, at the far end of the room, cleaner than everything else, less dust, like someone had been there. More recently, I approached it cautiously, every instinct telling me to be careful, to expect something, but nothing happened. No sounds, no movement, just silence. I reached the desk, and that's when I noticed a small object sitting right in the center. A notebook, leather-bound, worn, but not old enough to be forgotten. My hand hovered over it. Then slowly, I picked it up. It felt personal, important, like it didn't belong to this place. It belonged to someone. I opened it. The first page had one line written in it, simple, clear, and it made my blood run cold. Ronnie, if you're reading this, it means they didn't get here first. I froze. My father's handwriting, I recognized it instantly. Messy, uneven, real. My throat tightened. No way, I whispered. My hand started to shake as I turned the page. More writing, more words, more answers. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because what I read next didn't just change how I saw my father. It changed everything. Trust no one. Not even the ones who claim to help you. A sudden sound echoed from above. Faint, but real. My head snapped toward the staircase. Footsteps, heavy ones, coming down. I turned off my flashlight instantly. Darkness swallowed me whole. My heart slammed against my chest. They were here, and this time, they weren't waiting outside. The footsteps weren't rushed. That's what made them terrifying. Slow, measured, confident. Like whoever was coming down those stairs already knew exactly what they would find at the bottom. Me, I didn't breathe. I couldn't. The darkness wrapped around me so tightly it felt like it was pressing into my chest, stealing the air before it could reach my lungs. Think, think, think. My father's words echoed in my head. Trust no one. Too late for that. I had already trusted the situation enough to come here, and now I was trapped inside it. The footsteps grew louder, closer, each step sending vibrations through the concrete floor beneath me. I crouched behind the desk, clutching the notebook tightly in my hand. My other hand searched blindly across the surface until I felt something cold. Metal. I picked it up slowly. A flashlight. Different from mine. Heavier. More solid. I didn't turn it on. Not yet. Light would give me away. But darkness. Darkness could hide me. If I stayed still, if I stayed quiet. The footsteps reached the bottom. Stopped. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Then, click. A beam of light sliced through the darkness. Not mine. Theirs. It moved slowly across the room. Methodical. Scanning. Searching. My heart pounded so hard I was sure they could hear it. The light passed over the shelves, the crates, the walls. Then, it moved closer. Toward the desk. Toward me. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself not to move. Not to react. Not to exist. The beam hovered inches away from where I was hiding. Then a voice broke the silence. Low, calm, controlled. He's here. My blood ran cold. They knew. How? Another voice asked. This one sharper, impatient. He opened it, the first voice replied. He had the key. A pause. Then, good. Good? My grip tightened on the notebook. What did they mean? Good. The beam shifted slightly, lighting up the edge of the desk. I could see their shadows now. Two of them, maybe more behind. I didn't dare look directly. Where is he? The second voice said. Close, the first replied. He wouldn't go far. Not without reading something. A soft chuckle. That sound, it wasn't threatening. It was worse. It was certain. They weren't guessing. They knew how I would think. How I would act. Like this had all been planned. Like I was part of something I didn't even understand yet. My father, what did you get me into? The light moved again. Closer, closer. I could see the edge of a boot now. Black, clean. Not the kind of shoe someone wears hiking through dirt roads. This person came prepared. Professional. The beam suddenly dropped lower, sweeping under the desk. Toward me, my muscles tensed. This was it. This was the moment. Run? Fight? Freeze? I didn't get to choose. because just as the light reached my face, a loud metallic bang echoed from deeper inside the bunker. Everyone froze. The light snapped. Away from me instantly. What was that? The second voice demanded. Silence. Then, it came from the lower section, the first voice said slowly. Lower section? My mind raced. There was more? This place has multiple levels? The second voice asked. Of course it does, the first replied. Did you really think this was everything? A pause. Then, send 2 men down now. Footsteps moved away. Fast this time. Urgent. The beam of light followed them, pulling away from the desk. From me. I didn't move. I couldn't. Not until I was sure. Completely sure. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The bunker fell quiet again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was tense. Waiting. Alive. I slowly exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath for far too long. My chest burned. My hands were shaking. But I was alive. Barely. I peeked out from behind the desk. The main light was gone. Only faint beams flickered from further inside the bunker. Where the others had gone, I needed to move. Now, before they came back. I grabbed the notebook and slid it into my backpack. Then I picked up my flashlight. Turned it on, but kept the beam low, angled toward the ground. Careful. Quiet. Every step mattered now. I moved away from the desk, keeping close to the walls, trying to stay out of open sight lines. My eyes scanned everything, looking for anything. An exit. A hiding place. A weapon. Answers. And that's when I saw it. A door, half hidden behind a row of metal shelves. Different from the others. Smaller. Cleaner. No dust. Recently used? My heart skipped. This had to be it. The lower section they mentioned. The source of the noise. And maybe the reason my father built this place. I hesitated. Going deeper sounded like the worst possible idea, but staying here, even worse. They would come back, and next time, they wouldn't miss. I tightened my grip on the flashlight. Okay, I whispered. We go down. I slipped through the gap in the shelves and reached the door. It was already unlocked. Of course it was. Nothing about this was simple. I pushed it open slowly. No creak. No resistance. Inside, another staircase. But this one was different. Narrower, steeper, and darker. No ambient light at all. Just pure black. I swallowed hard. Great, I muttered. Then I stepped inside. The air felt different here. Colder. Sharper. Like the deeper I went, the further I was getting from the world I knew. Each step echoed louder than before. Or maybe it just felt that way. Because now, every sound could give me away. Halfway down, I heard something. Not footsteps, not voices. A hum, low, constant, mechanical. I froze. Listened. It was coming from below. Faint, but steady. This place had power. Active power. My heart started racing again. This wasn't abandoned. Not even close. I reached the bottom, and what I saw made everything above feel like a lie. The room was lit. Bright. Clean. Modern. Nothing like the dusty chamber above. This was advanced. Rows of servers lined the walls. Screens flickered with data, maps, numbers, surveillance feeds. Real time. Alive. What? I whispered. My voice echoed slightly in the sterile space. This wasn't just a bunker. This was a control center. A hidden one. And then, I saw the screen. Front and center. Larger than the others. Displaying something that made my stomach drop. A map. With multiple red dots, moving, tracking. One of them was labeled, Subject R. My breath caught. That's me, I whispered. They weren't just following me physically. They were tracking me. Digitally, completely. Every movement, every step. A cold realization settled in. This wasn't about inheritance. This wasn't about money. This was something else. Something bigger. Something dangerous. And I had just walked straight into it. Then suddenly, a voice echoed from behind me. Calm.
Clear.
Too close. You weren't supposed to find this part yet. I froze. Slowly, I turned around, and the moment I saw his face, everything inside me shattered, because standing there, looking directly at me, was someone I thought had been dead for years. My father.